In this problem, we need to simplify each of the three expressions. It's given that 1 omega and omega squared are the cube roots of unity. Since they are the cube roots of unity, it must follow that the sum of the roots, which is 1 plus omega squared, that must be equals to 0. And the product of the roots, which is omega cubed, that will be equals to 1. We'll use this fact. So let's begin with first one. So here we have a plus b omega plus c omega squared, and this is multiplied to a plus b omega squared plus c omega. So this will be equals to, now what we'll do, we'll distribute a with a plus b omega squared plus c omega. So let's do that. We have a multiplied to a plus b omega squared plus c omega. Then we'll take the second term, which is b omega, and multiply it to a plus b omega squared plus c omega, and we multiply the third term, c omega squared, to a plus b omega squared plus c omega. Now let's distribute a to each of the terms within the parentheses. So we'll get a squared plus ab times omega squared plus ac times omega. Then we multiply b the omega with each of the terms within the parentheses. So this will give us ab times omega plus b squared omega cubed plus b times c times omega squared. And multiplying c omega squared to each of the terms within the parentheses is going to give us ca times omega squared plus cb times omega raised to the power of 4 plus c squared times omega cubed. So further simplification gives us a squared plus ab omega squared plus ac omega plus ab omega plus b squared. Now in place of omega cube, we can use 1. So this will be simply b squared plus bc omega squared plus ca omega squared plus cb. Now we have omega raised to the power of 4. Omega raised to the power of 4 simply means omega cubed multiplied to omega. Now since omega cubed equals to 1, that means omega raised to the power of 4 is simply equals to omega. We have cb omega plus c squared times omega cubed, which is 1. Now we can combine a squared plus b squared plus c squared. So we're writing a squared b squared c squared is together, plus now we will take ab omega squared and we'll combine ab omega squared and ab omega by taking ab as the common factor. So ab will be multiplied to omega plus omega squared. Then we'll take the terms containing bc. So we have bc omega squared and cb omega. So if we take bc as the common factor, so we have omega plus omega squared. And finally we'll take ca as the common factor, so that will be multiplied to omega plus omega squared. This is done so that we can use the property that the sum of the root equals to 0. When place of omega plus omega squared, we will replace it with -1. So this is going to give us a squared plus b squared plus c squared plus ab times, so a omega plus omega squared, this will be replaced with -1, plus bc times omega plus omega squared, so that's also -1, plus ca times -1, and our final simplified expression will be a squared plus b squared plus c squared minus ab minus bc minus ca. So this is going to be the value of a plus b omega plus c omega squared multiplied to a plus b omega squared plus c omega. We will use this to work on our second part. So in the second part, we have a plus b plus c, and this is multiplied to a plus b omega squared plus c times a plus b omega plus c omega. Now here we can see that this two expression, this is exactly the value of which was obtained in part 1. So we'll replace it with the value. So that means R2 will then become, let's write down number 2 as well. So R2 is a plus b plus c multiplied to a plus b omega plus c omega squared multiplied to a plus b omega squared plus c omega. And this will be also equals to a plus b plus c. Now in place of the product of these two expressions, we will replace it with a squared plus b squared plus c squared minus ab minus bc minus ca. So this is the value of part 2. Now next we have to work with part 3, which is a plus b omega plus c omega squared whole cubed plus a plus b omega squared plus c omega whole cubed. So let's find out this value as well. So in order to find the value of this particular expression, we will begin by, this is 3, we'll begin by considering a plus b omega plus c omega squared to be equals to x, and a plus b omega squared plus c omega to be equals to y. So that means our given expression can become x cubed plus y cubed. This is the value that we need to obtain. Now we can factorize x cubed plus y cubed as x plus y. Now since 1 omega and omega square are the cube roots of unity, so when we factorize x cubed plus y cubed, we should get x plus y multiplied to x omega plus y omega squared. That will be multiplied to x omega squared plus y omega. And when we multiply these three expressions, this should give us x cubed plus y cubed, and we'll have to use the property that 1 plus omega, the sum of the roots must be 0 and product of the roots equals to 1. Fine. Now we have x plus y, so we'll have to find out x plus y, x omega plus y omega square, and x omega square plus y omega. We already have the values of x and y, so let's substitute this value. So this will be equals to, so we have a plus b omega plus c omega squared. This is added to y. The y value is a plus b omega squared plus c omega. This will be multiplied to, we have x times omega. So x multiplied to omega will be a omega. So we have multiplied omega to each of the terms of x. So that will be plus b omega squared plus c omega cubed. This is added to y times omega squared. We'll take each of the terms of y and multiply it with omega squared. So we'll get a times omega squared plus b times omega squared will be omega raised to the power of 4 plus c times omega raised to the power of 3. And the third factor, which is x omega squared plus y omega, so this will become, so we'll multiply each of the terms of x with omega squared. So this will give us a omega squared plus b times omega cubed plus c times omega raised to the power of 4. And this is added to y times omega. So we'll multiply omega to each of the terms of y. So that's a omega plus b omega cubed plus c omega squared. Fine. Now this is the expression for x cubed plus y cubed. Now let's further simplify. So here we have a, so this will get added to give us 2a. Now we have b omega and b omega squared. So we'll take b as the common factor. So that will be multiplied to omega plus omega squared. Similarly, we'll take c as the common factor. So that gets multiplied to omega plus omega squared. Coming to the second factor, we have a omega plus a omega squared. So we'll take a as the common factor. So we have a multiplied to omega plus omega squared plus b times, so b has b omega squared plus b omega raised to the power of 4. But this will be omega squared plus omega raised to the power of 4. So that's equals to omega. Omega raised to the power of 4 is equals to omega plus c omega cubed and c omega cubed. So omega cubed, since it's equals to 1, so this will be 2c. And we will take a as the common factor of the two terms. So we'll have a multiplied to omega squared plus omega, plus we'll take b common from b omega cube plus b omega cube. Anyways, b omega cube will be simply b because omega cube value is equals to 1. So we'll have 2b plus, we'll take c as the common factor. So we have c. Here omega raised to the power of 4. So that's equivalent to omega plus omega squared. Fine. Now what we can do here, we can use the property that 1 plus omega squared equals to 0. Some of the roots are 0. So that means omega plus omega squared will be negative 1. So that means we have 2a minus b minus c. So here we'll replace omega plus omega squared with -1. And here we have 2c. We have a times -1, so that will be -a, and b times -1 will be -b, multiplied to 2b minus c times omega plus omega squared will be -c minus -a. So this is the value of x cubed plus y cubed, where we have assumed that x is equals to a plus b omega plus c omega squared, and y is a plus b omega squared plus c omega.